Hello guys, Reza here. Welcome to my channel. Many of you have asked me how I exported my model from Unreal Engine to Substance Painter in my previous tutorial. As you may have watched, I modeled this CCTV camera from scratch inside Unreal Engine using the modeling toolkit. The truth is, there are several ways to do this. In this brief tutorial, I'll walk you through one method of bringing your asset from Unreal Engine into Substance Painter. While there are various methods including plugins and proprietary studio tools, these might not be accessible to freelancers. Fortunately, you can still export your model to Substance Painter without these fancy advanced tools. I'll show you my approach to exporting models and then explain how I bring the textures back from Substance Painter into Unreal Engine. Please note that this is not a texturing tutorial. We're not going to spend any time on texturing inside Substance Painter. That deserves its own video, and that's definitely beyond the scope of this particular topic. Let's dive right in. The question is, where do I start? How can I take this model into Substance Painter? What's going to happen to the texture sets? How Substance Painter is going to divide my model into layers. Let me switch to Substance Painter really quickly. So that's the part that I'm talking about. Your model needs to be broken down into layers, and each layer will be textured individually. But how Substance Painter is going to figure that out? Well, there is one simple answer to this question, and that is through its materials. So anything with the same material will be placed on a texture set. This means that this gold ring is going to be a texture set. This emissive LED is going to be a separate texture set. And since I textured everything white for the body, the bracket, the cylinder, the plate, they're all going to be on the same texture set in Substance Painter. Is there anything wrong with that? Yes, because they all occupy 0 to 1 UV coordinates. And when you put them all into one texture set, those UVs will overlap. And when you bake your mesh maps to prep for your texturing, you get artifacts left and right all around your model. So to avoid that, there's a very simple solution for it. And that is to create a simple master material. And it can be anything, it can be any color. Then you create an instant material out of it. And that instant material can be applied to one of these guys. Then you create a separate instance material again out of your master, change it, rename it, and assign it to this piece. Basically, assigning individual materials to individual pieces allows you to separate and decompose your model, so every element is in a separate texture set and you get a lot of control over your texturing. Let me show you how and the way I did it. So I created a separate level called main substance, and if I open that, you can see that I'm applying different materials to each section, and once I export this into Substance Painter, each one of these guys will get a separate texture set which you can toggle on and off, and they get their own material. If you have the same material on these guys, even better, just copy paste the material onto multiple layers and you're good to go. So with that out of the way, I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to File, Export Selected. I'm going to go to Export, and I'm going to call that CCTV Substance, and it's an FBX file. I'm going to go Save. Really, there is not much here to change. There is no skeletal mesh. You want to export morph targets if there is any. We don't have it. We don't have any collision for our static, so you can even turn that off. You want vertex colors and level of detail to stay there. In case you have any higher resolution, you can even bring that into Substance Painter, and you go export. Now let's go to Substance Painter and open our mesh and import our FBX into the application. Here I am inside Substance Painter. I went to File, New, and I selected my CCTV Substance, ready to go. We don't want to import any cameras or auto UV unwrap. By default, I believe these guys are on, so make sure to turn them off, and then you go OK. Now, if you look at these guys in the texture set list, you can see all of these materials are now a separate texture set. And the beauty of that is because I copied the name of the static mesh and assigned that to the material instance, I exactly know what model I'm dealing with when I'm playing around with different layers. So I can toggle each bit on and off. Let's say cover, I can turn it on and off. The rim, I can turn it on and off. The body, I can turn it on and off. And from this point onward, it's business as usual. You're going to go into texture set settings. And if you have any emissive, you bring emissive. If you have opacity, you bring that, and you bake mesh maps. You specify the resolution and take it from there. So it's fairly straightforward, the way that you bring your model into Substance Painter through multiple texture sets. That is for people who want to have a good level of control over every single piece. I know there are some folks who would like to have minimum number of texture sets. In that case, that method probably is not for you. But for me, I would love to have control over every single asset. And that's the easiest way to bring your asset into Substance Painter without using any fancy plugins. Now I'm going to finish texturing this asset. Right at the end, I will start recording again, and I will show you how to export the textures out of Substance Painter and into Unreal Engine. Here I am inside Substance Painter, and I did some quick work on this camera. Let's call this done. Although there are so many bits and pieces that I wish to add, I just wanted to sort of get this done as some sort of a demo and show you how to export textures. So once you reach that level, you can go into File, Export Textures, and then you need to think about where you want to save your textures. And more importantly, you set your output template to Unreal Engine packed, and that is going to give you a packed texture for your ambient occlusion, for your roughness, and for your metallic. I'm going to set the size to 4K, file type to PNG, TIFF, EXR, and that should be all good to go. In here, you can enable and disable what you want and what you don't want. And if you want everything, then that's all good. You go in here, check all, or uncheck the ones that you don't want, and you go export. Once you export the textures, simply create a folder in your project directory in Unreal Engine and import all the textures in. Let's go into Unreal Engine and finish this tutorial. Let's finish this tutorial by showing you how to use the textures that we exported from Substance Painter into Unreal Engine. How can we assign those textures into our model or static mesh? So if I go into my content drawer, I have a folder called Substance Material, and I've imported all the textures directly from Substance into Unreal. Let's pick one or two of these guys and just play around with them, and the rest is rinse and repeat. The idea is to learn the steps, and once you understand it, you can switch to autopilot and take it from there. Let's actually pick this cover outer and focus on that for time being. So basically all you need to do is one master material. You block your master material with all the nodes that you need, and then you create instances from that master material. You swap the textures and you assign it to different parts. In a nutshell, that's what's going to happen to all of these static meshes. So I'm going to go into material and I'm going to right click, create a new material. I'm going to call that MM for master material, substance _ matte. That is going to be my master material. I'm going to double click on it and dock that right next to my main level. So what you have works by default perfectly for opaque materials. So if you have anything with translucency, and if you're dealing with opacity, if you have glass, then you need to switch from opaque to translucent so you get the opacity and opacity masks working. That's the only scenario where you have an additional master material only for translucent object. But for all the opaque objects, you can pretty much use this master material for everything. So let's look at our maps really quickly. So if I go into here, let's focus on the cover outer, and I believe the textures are here. So we have the main color map, we have the normal map, and we have the packed map. Let's actually look at that packed map for a second. Couple of things that you need to be mindful of. The first one is for any packed map, because it's a data map as opposed to, let's say, albedo map, which is a color map, you need to make sure that sRGB is off. So by default it's on, turn it off and save. The way it works is G is roughness, B is metallic, and R is ambient occlusion. Once you know that, then you can plug the right channel into the right input of your material. That's all there is to it. Let's bring them in. So I'm going to select all three, bring them in, and the color map RGB into base color, and the normal map RGB goes into normal, and with packed as agreed, G goes to roughness, B goes to metallic, and R, if you wish to use ambient occlusion, goes to ambient occlusion, and you're pretty much done. Now this by itself is going to work for us, but remember the deal was to create an instance material out of this so we can actually recycle it for other parts. So without assigning this to our static mesh, I'm going to switch back to material, right click, and create a material instance for it. To make it easier for myself, I'm going to copy the name, maybe just the end of the name after static mesh cam cover outer, and with that copied, I'm going to create a material instance mi underscore and paste the name there so I can search for it easier. Now this right now is not active because we haven't parameterized any of these guys. So if I go ahead and open my instant material, you can see there is not much we can change in here. There is no attributes that's been promoted into this. We need to right click on each one of these guys and convert to parameter. I'm going to call that base color, and I can assign that a group, call that group texture set, so we know why exactly we are parameterizing these. With this one, it's a packed texture, so convert to parameter. We're going to call that ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic, ARM, packed. That belongs also to the texture set. And we're going to select our normals, right click on it, convert to parameter. I'm going to call that normals, and that also belongs to the texture set group. Only then, if I now go in here, we have a texture set rollout, which I can enable, use it for this particular set, and then create a new material instance out of our master material that we created, and just swap the textures. Simple as that. So I'm going to save that, go into main, and assign the material instance into this part, and we're pretty much done. It's that easy. I can repeat the same scenario. So this time is going to be mi underscore, and again I'm going to copy the name from here, call that main body. I'm going to find ml, right click, rename, and paste main body, double click on it, and I'm going to very easily search for main body. So main body for packed texture is here, and main body for base color is here, and main body for normals is here. And in no time at all, we managed to get our second texture. All I need to do is to go in there and drag and drop main body in there, and we got our textures, and it's working beautifully. And you start rinse and repeat doing that and take it from there. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time speeding up the video and finishing off this really quickly. Okay, there's still a few bits and pieces I need to do, but I'm not going to bore you with that. The whole idea behind this is how to model something from scratch in Unreal Engine, and then where to next. How to take your static mesh into Substance Painter or any texturing application packages bring the textures back, and use the power of material instances to really quickly put back everything together and have something as a result. So this demo was on a relatively simple asset. In the near future, I'll do my best to create more challenging case scenarios, and I truly hope you found this video useful, both the modeling section and how to export the static mesh and bring in the textures section. Thank you very much for your support. As always, you can find me on X, Instagram, and Reddit. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and until the next one, see you guys later.